The Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says she's warned Israel not to annex parts of the West Bank in retaliation for the UK's formal recognition of Palestinian statehood. She said that the government was committed to a two-state solution in the region. Ms. Cooper was speaking to the BBC before attending the UN General Assembly in New York, where France and other European states are due to make a similar announcement. Well, this follows Sunday's coordinated announcements by the UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused those who recognise Palestine of rewarding terrorists. He insisted Palestinian statehood would not happen. And the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas welcomed the move as a step towards lasting regional peace. Hamas called it a victory. Here's our diplomatic correspondent, James Landale.
The West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza may be occupied Palestinian territories, but do they form a state? Yesterday, Britain, Canada and Australia said they did. And at the United Nations today, France and several other European nations will follow suit and make similar declarations.
This is very much a joint effort. Western countries coming together to try to maximise the impact, to send a signal to Israel and its allies that they believe international opinion on this is only heading in one direction.
The Foreign Secretary told us the UK had taken a moral decision to challenge the idea there could never be a Palestinian state.
That is doing what extremists on all sides want, which is abandoning any prospect of a two-state solution, that it is incumbent on us now to revive the whole vision, the purpose of a two-state solution.
How concerned are you about the risk of Israel using this as a pretext to start annexing parts of the West Bank?
We have been clear, and I have been clear to the Israeli Foreign Minister, we have been clear to the Israeli government that they must not do that.
The idea that Gaza, devastated by war, and the West Bank, filled with Israeli settlements, could form a single state might seem a distant prospect. And Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said it would never happen, saying a Palestinian state would be a terror state. But the man leading the UN's aid agency in Gaza told us a Palestinian state was possible, only if there was a ceasefire.
The declaration is not enough. The declaration are words for the time being. Now we have to walk the talk. So this declaration needs now to be accompanied by this genuine commitment to make the resolve of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict a top priority.
Western powers want to give Palestinians what they call a horizon of hope, but they need a ceasefire first. James Landale, BBC News, New York.
Well, we're going to discuss all those points with a number of guests throughout the day. Firstly, we're going to cross over to speak to our Gaza correspondent, Rushdie Abu Alouf, who joins us from Istanbul. And Rushdie, although this has been welcomed by Mahmoud Abbas, obviously there are concerns that Israel remains opposed to a two-state solution. The Israeli government, the hard line within that government, and there are those threats of retaliation through more annexations of parts of the occupied West Bank.
Yes, that's what the Palestinians in the West Bank are fearing the most now, is that the Israeli reaction to this new recognition would be on the ground, and they're already, suffering from different problems in the West Bank, and one of them is the expansion of the Israeli settlements and the violation of the Jewish settlers against Palestinians everywhere. And the Palestinians were talking about it, very long debate in the social media about this. The people in the West Bank fear that this would push Israel to annex the part of the West Bank. The people in East Jerusalem believe that this move would push Israel to tighten more the security grip on the people in the West Bank. But most important, the people in Gaza, who believe that this step is welcomed, because they have been dreaming for 70 years, over 70 years, to have their Palestinian state. And any country is recognizing their right to have their state is welcomed. But they said, unless this move is stopping what they are living and what they are describing as the hell in Gaza, this is very little, very late step. That's what the people in Gaza say.
And there's also a question mark over tangibly, realistically, how this would look, because, of course, Palestinians in the occupied territories have been fragmented enormously into separate small places. There is a difficulty to see how these territories will potentially be governed going forward. Arguably, the UK government insisted that Hamas has no place in Gaza, whereas who potentially would realistically command and govern these areas?
Well, you know, for a very long time, the Palestinian political division was deep in the crisis because Hamas for the 17 years was in charge of Gaza, and no one know whether after this war Hamas will be in charge or not, because they still exist on the ground and they still have some force in parts of Gaza. And the BA, which run by Fatah, is in the West Bank. So all the time Palestinians were calling first to have their unity between the factions, so they can stand in the front of everyone, most Palestinians say, and ask for their state. Now it's very complicated situation in the West Bank. The Israeli expansion of settlements, the Israeli, daily incursion of Palestinian city. Palestinian Authority is losing control of most of the refugee camp in the West Bank. Hamas is devastated in Gaza, and the people in East Jerusalem have no hope. So people say there is a Palestinian state in the paper, but on the ground, it's impossible now.
Rushdi, for the time being, as always, many thanks. Our Gaza correspondent there, Rushdi Abu Alouf, joining us from Istanbul. Let's cross over to Jerusalem because my colleague Yolande Knell, our Middle East correspondent, joins us live now. And Yolande, we heard strong words yesterday from Benjamin Netanyahu. Today, it looks like Israeli military forces are really doubling down across Gaza. And of course, we're expecting Benjamin Netanyahu to be at the UN during this week, where again he'll reiterate his strong response.
That's right. What we've had so far from Israeli leaders has been a very defiant, angry response. And you can see why Palestinians, and actually in Bethlehem in the West Bank today, people are worried about the backlash of all of this, as much as they might broadly welcome the moves towards recognition. So what the Prime Minister of Israel has said already, he said that there will be no Palestinian state west of the Jordan River. That's in the land that I'm on at the moment. He's pledged to continue expanding Israeli settlements on land that Palestinians want for a state of their own. And just around Bethlehem, you can see more and more of these little outposts that have popped up in the 2 years that the Gaza war has been on, while world attention has really been very distracted from here. But the Prime Minister is not giving at the moment an indication of what his full response will be to these diplomatic moves. He said he's going to make further announcements when he returns from the US, having both given his address at the General Assembly and also met with President Trump, with the US, of course, being such a key ally here. The US said that it was performative, these moves that have taken place, but it will be very difficult, I think, for the US to deal with annexation. That will just complicate Israel's ties even more with other Arab countries in the region.
Indeed. Yolande, as always, many thanks. Yolande Knell there joining us live from Jerusalem.